and welcome to the Doofcast, the official variety podcast of doofmedia.com. My name is Scott Daly, and I somehow managed to survive 2018, and all I got were some pretty great movies, actually.
Yeah, it seems like movies are kind of like getting better and better every year, actually. And I actually saw some movies this year, so that was different.
Matt, you went to the theater.
Yeah, I went to the theater several times.
Wow.
Not like
so magical.
And by several, I don't mean like two. So yeah, it was good. It was a good year. Good year in film.
That's right, and that's what we're going to be doing on today's episode, our first episode of 2019. We're going to be saying goodbye to 2018 by talking about some of our favorite movies from the year. In the past on this episode, we've done kind of like top 10s or top 5s. I'm kind of tired of like ranking things. Like I don't think it's necessary anymore. So we're just really going to go around our digital table and talk about movies we liked. And we've got some guests here to talk about movies with us, Matt.
Yeah.
First, we've got recurring guest Sesh Evans. Sesh, welcome back to the show.
Hi, super glad to be here and talk about some good movies.
Glad to have you back, of course. And we have my lovely wife.
Oh, me.
guest starring on the podcast from our hit show. I can say that without having to back it up. Our hit show, Vow to View.
He's got the bruises to prove it.
So wow.
I really do hit him a lot.
I mean,
It's not the
look,
it's true.
I didn't want this episode of the show to be about spousal abuse,
right.
but I guess
Ooh,
we're there.
Okay.
You brought it up.
I was kind of joking, but
All right, interesting
it was
direction. Let's go with it.
serious here. Yeah.
All right, so we are here to talk about 2018, and we're going to spend this episode talking about some of our favorite movies. Kind of like we did back at Halloween, we're just going to go around the circle and talk about movies. And then after that, we're going to look forward to 2019 and talk about some of our New Year's resolutions. Some stuff may be related to the entertainment we consume, and some stuff maybe not.
Cool.
But guys, I'm really excited about this because I do think this was a really great year in film. There's a ton of movies to talk about, and I'm glad we have you all here because that means like it wasn't just me talking about 20 movies. I got to let you guys pick some movies that I also wanted to talk about, but I'll let you guys do that.
Cool.
That's good.
All right, so why don't we just go ahead and get started? Before we do that, though, I have to... Michael was supposed to be here on this episode, and then he wasn't able to make it, but he left me with a message that he wanted me to read to all of our listeners, so I feel obligated to read Michael's message. Before I read this, I want everyone to know Doof Media in no way endorses the content of this message.
And before you read this, I also want to say that I think Michael had planned the whole time to not be here and to just say this statement. So I'm even asking whether we should really read it or not.
I think that's fair, but I did promise him I would read it. So
Was it pinkies?
there was no pinkies, no.
You can still get out of it.
And before Scott promised that he would read it, I promised that I would read it if Scott didn't read it. So Michael was very careful in covering his bases, making sure that his prepared statement
Did you
was the
pick-
same.
No way to sabotage.
Yep.
All right, here we go. Once again, this statement is by Michael, not endorsed by me, just because I'm reading it. Citizens of Earth, it is with great regret that I, being a man of integrity and upright moral standing, must withdraw myself from the Doof Awards this evening. I am sorry to announce that in this woeful year of 2018, no enjoyable movies were produced, and therefore a favorite cannot in good conscience be proclaimed. For those viewers in search of a film worth watching, I recommend 1963's Charade, directed by Stanley Donen. I can only hope that 2019 brings with it a more hopeful future for cinema and indeed all of humankind. So thanks for that, Michael. Guys, Michael's wrong.
I'm trying so hard not to laugh during his...
Charade is a really good movie. He's not wrong about that.
Yeah, I kind of want to see it now after that endorsement. Since apparently, according to Michael, it was the last good movie, I guess.
Here's the thing about Charade. It's a book adaptation, so I feel like it goes against one of his many boycotts. But whatever. I'm glad he liked it.
Also, how do you know there were no good movies if you didn't see movies?
Sesh, that is a very, very good question.
Yeah.
And one that he can't answer.
He could have been here. He could have been here.
He could be here to defend himself, but he chose not to. And therefore, we can all agree that Michael is 100% wrong.
Michael's wrong.
And
what else is Michael wrong about?
This was. let's make this the Michael was wrong podcast. I think this was a really great year for movies. I think one of the things we're seeing is the streaming platforms are really ramping up the number of films that they're producing and putting out there. And while you don't always get to see them in theaters because of this, it's kind of amazing the movies that can exist now that couldn't a few years ago. And I think that's very wonderful. Like a fair amount of movies on my list and movies we're going to be talking about today are available on a streaming platform and only on a streaming platform. Some available just internationally on a streaming platform. They had a theatrical release here. But I think we can say that without the existence of Amazon Prime and Netflix and Hulu to a certain extent, a lot of these movies just might not exist anymore. And I think so it's a very fun time to be a movie fan, I think.
I think so too. I think the competition's gone up, so people are trying harder.
Yeah. And I think we've seen this weird moment where like TV, like people were almost saying movies aren't a thing anymore because like TV has taken over. And I actually think 2018 was not a great year for television. I don't think there was I think there was some good shows, but like I don't think it was like, I think like it was going up. And I think we kind of plateaued a bit in this year. And I think movies kind of jumped in the gap and became a much bigger cultural conversation piece than television was, especially because some of our big hitters like Game of Thrones weren't around in 2018. So movies filled that gap.
Yeah, I think that's true. I agree.
All right, so let's get started and let's talk about some of our favorite movies. And Elyse, I'm going to let you go first.
Oh, me go first?
You can go first.
I've already kind of shared one of my movies though on our other podcast thing.
We'll go ahead and share it again.
I'll just go ahead and share it again.
Okay.
I really liked Game Night. I think that was my first movie that I saw this year that I liked.
All right, tell me a little bit about Game Night. Why did you like it so much? What is it?
It's a comedy with a great cast of characters, and basically this brother comes in out of town that's this big shot, and his younger brother, I forget, older brother.
I don't remember.
They just have this sibling relationship where they always try and one-up each other. And so they try and one-up each other on the most epic game night ever. But then it turns into this whole crime thing, and people are everywhere and getting shot and going and trying to get eggs out of the Fight Club. And, it's just insane.
I've seen this movie, so I know exactly what you're talking about. But I know Matt hasn't seen this movie, and I have to wonder.
Oh, Matt, doesn't it sound great?
I have to wonder what's going through his head when you say things like "go and get eggs out of the Fight Club."
It does sound great, actually. For some reason, I think there should be trailers, but then there should be Elyse describes the movie in 20 seconds or so, and that should be a separate thing because I want to see the movie now. Don't even show me a trailer.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yep.
Had you seen this one, Seth?
I actually haven't, but now I'm really, really curious. Because a bunch of people told me it was really good, and the trailers, especially for comedies, sometimes suck. Because, trailers for comedies, they're really, it's tough for them because they want to be funny, but you don't want them to use all the best jokes.
Right.
So sometimes they're just not the best parts of the movie to advertise the movie. And I think this one might have been a victim of that. I'm suspecting it is because I haven't seen it, but this sounds pretty funny.
I think one of the best parts about it, though, is everyone in the cast of characters is funny in their own ways outside of game night. And so you come in with the impression of their sense of humor, and they do it expertly, but then also different too. Winston from New Girl, hilarious.
Yeah.
The chick from Catastrophe, wonderful. Billy Magnuson, which I can't really think of what else he's in, but I know that I've seen him in something else where he was equally this jockey, and it was perfect.
Jason Bateman,
Kyle Chandler. Oh my gosh,
McAdams.
Clear eyes, full hearts. He can't lose.
But the MVP of this movie, you know him, the best person in this movie.
Oh, yes. Jesse Plemons. Jesse Plemons. Great year for Jesse Plemons. Who knew he could be so good at comedy?
This is a studio comedy, right? Like, this is a big budget studio comedy, and it really is fantastic. I love it to death. Like, it's hilariously funny. Rachel McAdams is like, I've forgotten how hilarious she can be when she wants to be, and she's fantastic in this. And it also has some of the best action scenes of the year in it. Like, the way they shot this movie, like, they didn't shoot this as like your standard kind of studio comedy where like they don't really care about cinematography. It's like just a flat background to tell jokes on. They like shot this movie in crazy ways. Like, they have long take fight scenes in this movie. Like, they do this thing with the camera that makes like the neighborhood look like a board game. Instead of like, I think it's just the angle of the camera like makes everything look board gamey. You're absolutely right. This is a fantastic movie. If I had made a top 10 list, this might have been on it.
Yes.
It's so wonderful seeing a studio comedy that is like willing to try something different and
not be like overly pushy about all of the jokes. It was wonderful.
Right. Well, perfect. I think like modern day comedies are mostly like the Judd Apatow like improvisation machines, right? Where they just like stick actors on a set and have them improv like for 30 minutes and then they just chop together the best jokes that they told over the and I don't want to take anything away from those because those movies can be really funny, but this is a different kind of comedy from that, and it was something I had been missing and I just really, really enjoyed it.
Yep.
So that's Game Night.
Cool.
Good pick.
I'm gonna have to watch it.
You both really need to. I think it's out.
Yeah, we
own it.
We do own it.
Yeah, it is out because 2018 was the longest. And for some reason, I thought this was a 2017 movie until I looked it up a few days ago and was like, wow.
Yeah. Came out really early last year. What was it, like February?
Yeah,
March?
I think so.
Something like that, yeah.
All right. Next up, Sesh, you pick a movie. Let's talk about it.
I'm going to start off with Spider-Verse. I think it was the favorite movie of mine that I saw this year. I'm trying to think of things and flaws about it, and like I'm just not coming up with any. Like, the only thing I've been able to come up with is that I'm mad it's like not a pilot and we're not seeing like more of it. Like 12 hours, like right now. Like, that's like the only thing I could come up with. Like, it was so fun for being a comic book fan, a Spidey fan. Like, I've never seen another movie. Like, I'm very biased towards like animation. I do really love animation. I love that they can do, like, as a filmmaker, that they can do literally anything they want with it. Like, oh, it could be sunset. Oh, sure. We could, travel the world. We could do whatever. Oh, yeah, we could do it upside down. Oh, don't worry about camera angles. Like, all of it's just, and they just use that so well. And I've seen this in like a lot of other movies, especially like some of like the earlier comic book based movies, like where that's the source material, where they do this like awful thing where they try to make it comic booky, but it's like live action. And so then there's just like this like picture in picture or like panels that are just the different camera angles moving around on the screen. And it always just comes out like crap. Yeah. It's so cheesy and it just never comes out well. This did it though. Like, it was so good. And like, it just is like a filmmaker perspective too. There were like tons of like little, I should ask too. Have any of you guys seen it?
Yeah.
I have not.
I think Elyse is the only one here that hasn't seen it.
Okay. I mean, it's a regular hero coming of age story of finding his footing as Spider-Man, and it's way out there. Like, it's really good with the humor, where it doesn't like make the dramatic moments suffer for being funny. It places it very well, which I really appreciate, especially in superhero movies, because there's so much that they do where they kind of just blend them and they ruin a dramatic scene, or they really, really, really try to be funny. And this one, it did it so well. And there's so many great little like filmmaker moments, like where he's like struggling, or Miles is struggling to be Spider-Man. And this is like a good like filmmaker / comic example I brought up, or I'm bringing up, where he's falling, like he's trying to web sling and he's just failing and he's falling between these buildings. And as comic fashion, just like a panel pulled out, you see the letters of what he's saying follow him down to the to Earth. And so it's just like just following him as he goes down, just the screaming. And then way later in the movie, when he gets his footing and he's web slinging and he's shooting himself up in the air, reverse shot where he's launching himself up and you see the letters follow him again. It's just woo! Like he's having fun with it. And they do so many little tiny moments like that and so many bigger moments that are just really fantastic filmmaking. And just the visuals like absolutely push animation and like what it can do to its limits. Plus it's a good story and the characters are good and it's just fun and action packed and it's just everything like we want in superhero movies, I think. This kind, the fun kind.
Yeah. I mean, what impresses me is it's really a very innovative movie in a lot of ways. It's doing very strange, kind of unusual things story-wise, doing very unusual things visually. And and it still manages to be like almost flawless. And pretty much everyone loves it. I took my kids to it and they're big Spider-Man fans and today I asked them and they said it was their favorite Spider-Man movie now, which
that's great.
Yeah,
cool.
I need to go back and watch the other ones, but I might agree with that.
Is it your favorite Spider-Man movie, Matt?
I don't know. I might have to. Spider-Man 2 has a very special place in my heart. But like this movie is just really an exceptional thing. Like there's no. I can immediately think of like some slow bits in Spider-Man 2. I can't think of any slow bits in this movie. You know, this is like a perfectly put together movie. So,
yeah. I mean, the fun thing about saying favorite is it doesn't have to be. You don't have to be 100% sure it's the better, quote unquote, better movie, right? I will always say that Spider-Man 2 is going to be my favorite superhero movie, just because you're absolutely right. I have a very special place in my heart for that movie. That movie. I will never forget watching it for the first time, and I watched it like so many times because I love that. But this movie gets as close to a Spider-Man movie has come to making me feel the way I saw that movie when I first went to the theater and saw it. I completely agree with everything you guys are saying. Everything this movie does is surprising and fantastic. I was worried because like dumping all these spider people into the same movie was going to make the movie feel crowded and our main characters weren't going to get their time. Like I was like, this is the first time they're doing Miles Morales in a big release movie, and I wanted him to have his movie. And I was worried, we're throwing all these other characters in this is going to take away from him. It's not going to be his movie anymore. And that's not true. Like the movie manages to balance all these other characters. I think, you know, the older Peter Parker played by Jake Johnson and Spider-Gwen get a lot of time, and then the three other ones, the noir Spider-Man, Spider-Ham, and Penny, don't get as much screen time. They're of the six Spider people, they're the ones more relegated to the background, but they still have their own little mini arcs throughout the story. But this is Miles Morales' movie. This is his origin story, and it's fantastic. It's so good. I love everything about it. I love some of the surprises, the villain characters we didn't know were going to be in this movie that are suddenly there.
So good.
Like, wow.
So good.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it,
right,
but I so desperately want to be like, guys, can we talk about this? When can we talk about this?
Yeah. And I am so into everything they did with the animation too. I know we talked about this when I briefly talked about this movie a couple weeks ago, but you know, we are in a place now in animation where it has been decided that all animated movies are going to look really similar to Pixar movies. And I think that's generally accepted because Pixar movies look really good. But there's so many more things you can do with animation, and it's great to see someone want to sit down and try to do something different. And they really push the envelope in every single way. The ways they shot this movie, they animated this movie, they invented new styles to achieve the look that they wanted to get out of this movie. It's incredible. And everyone should see this. And I'm a little disappointed that like it's doing well for an animated Spider-Man movie, but I just think like the whole, like the Western understanding of cartoons is that they're not as serious as live action, right? So there's a lot of people that are passing up on this because it's just a cartoon, and it's like, no, guys, see it. You gotta see it.
Yeah. Like I was hesitant with it because like I saw like I see all the different versions of Spider-Man in there, and it really felt like it was going to be very like referencey, like you had to be like deep into nerd culture to be appreciative of it, and it wasn't like that at all. Like it's there too, like I saw a couple of times. One of the friends I saw it with he's read all of those comics. He knows about all of those different versions. So he was able to, give us the down low afterwards. But that was after my second time seeing it already. And then that just made me appreciate the movie more. It wasn't alienating at all.
Yeah. It's very much like inviting you into that world rather than being like, here, I'm gonna drop a bunch of lore on you that you don't know about. And it's just I mean, it was accessible even to my little kids. So I think they did it perfectly.
Yeah, I think it did a good balance. Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're fine.
I think it did a really good balance of being something that kids can enjoy and adults can enjoy, because I feel like a lot of places like to skirt that line where it kind of becomes not enjoyable for both. And this one, I think, really did have a appropriate appreciation for all ages. Like, I enjoyed it as much as like I enjoyed the old Spider-Man cartoon of the 90s. I went back and saw those cartoons like not too many years ago, but as an adult, and like there's so many more adult themes in there that went over my head as a kid, but just make it so I appreciate it even more. And I feel like this had all of that too.
Yeah, I completely agree. I almost want us to do like a full deep dive into this movie, like a full spoilers deep dive someday in the future. Maybe when it comes out on Blu-ray would be a good time to do that, because I actually think, we've been talking about the visuals and the characters. I actually think there's a lot going on here in the story. I think this movie is doing a lot of things, is talking a lot about, relationships between, like, it is a different kind of origin story than the traditional Peter Parker one, but it is dealing with responsibilities, dealing with finding who you are and searching for your identity and gaining confidence and becoming a hero, but just becoming yourself. And I think it'd be a lot of fun to do an episode diving deep into all that. So I'm going to write that down on our episode spreadsheet, and maybe we'll do that when the movie comes out.
Yeah, I bring it up too because it was such a good movie in all those other ways as well. Like, the visuals stand out and they're so different, but it just does everything else fantastic.
Yeah. And I think this seals the fact that firing Phil Lord and Chris Miller off of Solo was the dumbest thing they could do. Because they wrote this movie, and I don't understand how you knock these guys off a project. Like, everything they do turns to gold. Like, it's just they have an innate understanding of whatever property they approach that just guarantees that they're going to tell a good story out of it. And it's just like, just let I mourn for the Solo movie that could have been.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Matt, why don't we go to you now?
Okay. I think, the Spider-Verse is one I really liked. Annihilation is probably the next one. Came out this year that I like to talk about, and I think we probably did talk about this before on the podcast, actually. But yeah, I mean, this is just a great cerebral sci-fi movie with some of the more like genuinely disturbing scenes that have been committed to film in recent memory. And we even read the book for the book club and everything, so I guess it's no surprise that I'm kind of into it as a movie. But it's just one of those science fiction classics where like everything about it is done right. It's thought provoking. You can analyze it for days and find all kinds of meanings in it. I don't have a lot more to say. Just like that. I mean, did you guys like this movie too?
I did. I really liked it. I'm trying to think of something I've seen that's like more like creepy but beautiful at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is one that all four of us have actually seen. So yes. I think this is going to be maybe one of the few that all of us have seen. And I agree with everything you said, Matt. I mean, we did a whole episode where I had nothing but good things to say about it. I'm kind of glad Michael's not here now because he didn't like this movie and he would have been shitting all over it again. But Alex Garland is just like this guy that writes the exact kind of science fiction stories I like, right? Like, between Ex Machina, he wrote the script for Sunshine, he wrote the script for Dread, I think he wrote the script for 28 Days Later.
Oh boy.
He's just the kind of writer that just, like, I feel in tuned to what he's doing. And this movie came out in February of last year. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a testament to its effect on me that I was still thinking about it 10 months later, that the experience I had watching this movie for the very first time, like I still can remember very distinctly. In a year that felt very, very long, my experience in the theater at this movie was like transcendent. Like I just was like completely blown away by everything I saw on the screen. And this is actually, like, I didn't like this book very much. Like,
yeah, I didn't either.
I was very mixed on what the book was doing, and I think the movie took everything that the book had that was interesting and found new ways to express it visually, to just ask questions and then not answer the questions, but do it in a satisfying kind of way. Like, I like ambiguous endings in a satisfying, makes you think and makes you want to talk to people about the movie kind of way, and that's what this delivered to me.
Yeah, I mean, like you said about Alex Garland, his thing is a mastery of both character and an ability to communicate themes through every single choice about the movie. So this is an example of that. Whereas the book, I don't think nailed it quite as well, to say the least. This is one of those things where you just point to it, you're like, everything about this movie is carefully crafted to make very precise points, while also being entertaining as hell and disturbing and all of those other things. So yeah, great film.
Yeah. I almost wonder if it's better if this kind of mind-bending science fiction might work better in a visual medium, because like instead of like having to explain something via text, like you can just like when you see the alien at the end of this movie and it's just this like completely incomprehensible like twisting nether thing, like reading that versus just seeing it, like those are two very different effects, and like I feel like the ambiguous, like beautiful but uncertain nature of this movie just works better in a visual medium than it did just reading someone relay that stuff to you.
Yeah,
I don't know,
I'm still interested to read it, but like, I mean, from the sounds of it too, something like this, like visuals get to the psyche like just in so many more ways than like just text can.
Yeah. I think there was a lessons from the screenplay YouTube episode about this movie. Actually,
there was.
Yeah, and they make the point, like I think they actually point out the part of the script that describes the creature at the end and how it's like, it doesn't literally say this, but it practically says like, the point of this is that it defies description. So it's going to be hard to put in a book, right? So yeah.
And I think that as like open-ended as this movie was, I think the themes of the movie were a lot clearer. Like, I think the themes of this movie are relatively simple. Like, the idea of self-destruction is not a complex theme. It's just the different ways in which it plays out through the course of the movie are complex and need analyzing. But I think it was a lot more clear than the themes of the book, where I was kind of like, I'm not sure what you're saying with this story.
Yeah, I agree.
And there were also things in there, too, that weren't in the book.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's very, very different from the book.
Yeah, and that's why I liked it. And I would much rather go back and rewatch the movie 3 or 4 times than the book. Yeah. Reading it.
Yeah.
So don't bother.
All right, does anyone have anything else?
No taken.
Just watch the movie 3 times and you'll get everything.
All right, does anyone have anything else they want to say about Annihilation before we move on? All right, it's my turn. I wanted to talk, the first movie I'm going to talk about that's not Annihilation, because that was on my list. I want to talk about First Man for a little bit. Did anyone else see this movie?
I did.
The Neil Armstrong biopic?
I did.
No.
I love this movie so much, and I'm a little, like, it's hard to say I'm disappointed, because at the end of the day, I don't really care how well it does in award ceremonies and stuff, but this movie has dropped out of the conversation in the awards season in a way that I was surprised to see it do so, especially with like Ryan Gosling in it, with it being directed by Damien Chazelle. Like, this movie's not in the conversation anymore. It kind of faded away, and I'm really bummed about that, because I think this movie's doing a lot of really super fascinating stuff and doing it very well. I love, like, it is a biopic, but it is unlike like any kind of biopic I've ever seen. It is much less interested in telling the story of Neil Armstrong than it is telling the story of grief and what grief drives us to do. And I love the way in which Chazelle represents that throughout the film, the horror of space travel, the like the craziness of this thing that we did. Like, I talked about this when we talked about this back on the Doofcast months ago, but there's a scene where where the camera goes into the cockpit of one of these rockets, I think one of the Gemini rockets, and you're in there with the astronauts as the thing's going off, and you could hear like the sound work and the camera work is so wonderful because you can hear like the groans and the creaks of the metal as things expand and shrink, and you can like, it is terrifying. It like you see these men sitting in these chairs, and you realize the only thing that's between them and absolute death is like just this metal that we've kind of bolted together. That's like it's insane. Like what we accomplished is insane, and it's crazy, and the movie explores what drives us to do these things. And I just, maybe it's just because I really love everything Damien Chazelle does, but I was just absolutely blown away by this movie.
It was really pretty. I will start. I mean, like, I just think, like what you said too, like visually, it was there. I love this. I like space. I also like Ryan Gosling. But I think that what made me enjoy this movie so much, and I know that I've talked to you about this, and I think I've mentioned it before, is that the score on this movie had so many wonderful things that were going with it. And I think that's also, if I'm talking about a movie that I connect on like with multiple levels, not just the story, but that it stays with me, it's because emotionally I get connected with music. And so when there's the score that complements the story, it's just like, it seals the deal for me. And when you think back on this movie and how like Neil Armstrong the whole time, you know, what was motivating him in order to get to the moon, and the theme that went with that musically, and how the marriage between him and his wife was so strained. And then after he was able to heal through that process, the music that he had that connected him to the moon then connected him to his wife. And you could hear like how the themes just like worked all together. It was incredible. And so it's just like having that with it just made the movie so much better.
And we should say it's Justin Hurwitz that did the music, who's done all of Chazelle's. He did La La Land, and he did Whiplash as well.
Yeah. And he won for La La Land won, I think. I don't think Whiplash did.
I don't think so.
That was an intense one. It just like made me all sorts of agitated.
Well, it was supposed to.
Yeah.
I absolutely love space stuff too, and I especially love space stuff that's like inspiring and like pushing us to move forward and explore. And I love that was just such a strong element of it. Like, he does absolutely like have this grief, and this thing needs to happen for him to help heal and well, I don't want to say get over it, but just to be able to heal and do such great things and just go literally beyond where anyone's ever gone before. And just and just like I love movies that just emphasize that drive. Like, I just have a huge passion for movies and stories that's anything that's not just like space related, but that has that drive for like humanity to move forward, and to tie that into moving forward while also moving forward past grief, I think was just super interesting and really, really well done. It would make every child that wants to be an astronaut not be an astronaut because of how terrifying they made it, but like nerve-wracking it is. The sound design is so good.
Yeah.
But I really appreciated that, and it like that's my jam.
That's the thing I kind of love about this movie is that, I think it showed the inspiring parts of space travel, but in a different way than like movies like The Right Stuff did, and like Apollo 13 did. And it was very much in a way that's like, I think the movie was unafraid to ask the question, why the hell are we doing this? Like, why did we spend billions of dollars? Why did this cost people their lives? Why did we do it? And I think the movie comes to a very satisfactory answer to that at the end of this. But I like that it isn't afraid to ask that question. And that's a thing that a lot of people got politically upset with this movie for, because it didn't paint this as this perfect, rosy, wonderful thing that we did. And this, yes, it was a triumphant moment for the United States and for mankind and all these things, but the movie wasn't afraid to ask those questions along top of it. And that upset a lot of people, which I think is silly, because it's just posing questions.
Yeah.
But I like that's what this movie decided to do, and that's the angle they took on this movie, and that's why to me it doesn't feel like a biopic. Like, I think you compare this to Bohemian Rhapsody, which is like a very, very like bog standard traditional like formulaic biopic. This movie's not like that at all, and that might be a little unfair because it's music versus astronaut. Like, they're two different things, but like in your standard biopic, you have character who's super driven. He like succeeds at first and then blows it through some kind of
drug addiction or
exactly,
fame getting to him.
But then by the end he realizes his wrong and he rights his wrong, and they say, yay, look, these great people throughout history went through adversity and then conquered it. And that's not really what this movie is interested in talking about. Like, it's a much more personal focused type of thing. And I want more people to see this movie, and I wish people were talking about this movie and the award stuff more, just because I was so blown away by it.
I felt like it was, like you said, like very focused, but at the same time it still had that grand element. Like, to me, I kind of felt like a lot of the message was we have to like overcome our individual things to do great things as a whole. And how much of a bigger picture that is for everyone.
Yeah. All right, so that is First Man. I am done for now. Let's swing back to Elyse.
Round one. Ding.
How long did round one take? We've talked about 4 movies, and we're 45 minutes into the show.
Oh my gosh.
So Elyse.
Yes.
Give me another movie.
So going off of stories of people's lives, I'm going to pick one of my most beloved people from my childhood that had a movie based on his life, Mr. Rogers, with Won't You Be My Neighbor.
Yay!
I thought you were going to talk about Bradley Cooper. I was like, what's going on?
Oh yeah, Bradley Cooper. His movie was great too.
Tell me about the Mr. Rogers documentary. I think this is another one that we all saw too, right, Matt?
Yeah.
You saw this.
Yeah,
I did as well.
I did.
It was just the most beautiful story of just like, it was just Mr. Rogers. And it was just the show and about the difference that he made and about his passion and just about why he decided to do the show and about all of the people's lives who he touched and who he's still impacting. And it's just, with everything that always goes on every year, it's always nice to just have something that reminds you that there is good and there are good people. And it was just, you can't not see this movie and not be happy, but be sad, but be thankful. And so it was wonderful.
Yeah.
Won't you be my neighbor?
Well put.
It was so sweet. It just makes you want to be a good person. It's so wonderful.
Yeah, I think 2018 was a rough year for a lot of people in this country and in this world, and I completely agree that movies like this, make you feel good about humanity and about the things that people can accomplish, and I completely agree. I think when I think of my favorite movies, I think about the experience of being in the movie theater, and this made me cry so freaking much in the theater. I was an absolute mess throughout this entire movie, and it's because it's beautiful and it's beautifully told, and I completely agree. I loved this movie.
Yeah, it's really inspiring. I actually got to see it in the theater with my mom, which was very special because obviously that's the woman who showed me, Mr. Rogers when I was a little kid. So that was very unique and valuable experience. But yeah, I mean, it's like the movie humanizes him, but not in a way where, like, usually we use that word to say like brings the person down, right? But no, it humanizes him. But you're like, oh, he's a person, but he was who I thought he was, but he was a person, and then that actually makes you feel like, well, maybe I can be a little bit more like that then, I think it's not unattainable.
I think you're absolutely right. Like, it doesn't like rip him off his undeserved pedestal, but it does show he was a person that was frustrated and doubtful and unsure if what he was doing was actually making the difference that he wanted it to.
Yeah.
And you're right that humanizes him, and it makes you feel like, okay, like when you're having doubts about the things that you're trying to get accomplished in your life, like here's this person that did so much and impacted so many people, and he even till the end of his life was unsure about if he actually accomplished anything.
Yeah.
I know. It just makes you want to be good and be like, no, Mr. Rogers, I'll be good, I promise.
Yeah. I don't think I've been more angry in a theater than when they showed like clips of different cable the picket line thing and different cable news organizations like saying like the reason why millennials are so entitled is because of Mr. Rogers. I just like it makes you so angry.
Yeah.
I was so mad.
Yeah, how dare you tell those children they're worth something?
Yeah. bunch of jerks. Yeah, great pick. This is, I mean, I have a documentary on my list too that I'm going to talk about when we get to it. I think this was a really great year for documentaries in general. I'm really interested to see which movie's going to win the Oscar in this category. I think Mr. Rogers is going to do some work there. I think it's going to do really well. So.
I sure do hope so.
Yeah. All right, Sesh, what about you?
Oh, yes. Well, the next one that came to mind for me, I saw is also on our list of biggest total gross at the box office. I'm going to go with Black Panther.
The biggest movie of the year.
I know. I don't usually care about that. I usually don't. It means, nothing to me. It's like, oh, cool, good for it. But this movie, like, I didn't want to do like a whole superhero theme either, but then I immediately found, like, crap, I'm gonna have like a bunch of superhero movies for me for this year, like I just am. And this one I enjoyed so much. Like it is flawed, it's not perfect, but for me it just felt like story-wise, character-wise, writing. Again, I bring up humor because that's been a big problem with Marvel a lot of the time. But in this, it was good. The drama was good. Just all of it was just, it all came together. Like, it just felt like it's been so long for me. Like, this was like the first movie in a superhero movie in a long time where I felt like they cared and they tried. Like, there's been so many superhero movies in like the last decade or so. Other movies writing on Marvel's coattails and the Marvel movies where it just felt like it was like a boilerplate script and it's just we're seeing the same thing all the time. And this one I just felt like they didn't know if it was going to succeed, and so they just tried and they paid attention and they cared about every detail. And I think it really showed, like, just throughout. Like, I think one of the most legitimate complaints I've heard about it has been everyone's more interesting than the Black Panther himself. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine. But he's also not, like, he doesn't, stand short compared to the other superheroes that are leads in their own movies. And they have, like, no sidekicks. Like, so this just brings everyone is just so much better in this movie than a lot of the other movies we see. We had 2 good villains in this movie.
Yeah.
I liked the villain more than I liked Black Panther. I will be honest.
That's fair. Most people do, and that's fine too.
Michael B. Jordan.
We got Darth Vader. We got Darth
Vader.
Jordan. It's it's great. I'm glad to see Michael B. Jordan in it because I watch these things. I saw Fantastic Four, the reboot. I've seen that. Like, he came back with a vengeance in this. Like, literally, he's like one of the best Marvel villains. Like, I don't feel like almost anyone really compares except like him and Thanos right now. Like, with any actual character to them. Yoki's more good guy, he barely counts.
Yeah.
But and so for Marvel to be around that long and not really have that strong villain, that's so depressing because they have so many good villains too, and they've just been poop, all of them except him.
Yeah.
My feelings on this movie have cooled a little bit. I still like it. The third act really just kind of bummed me out in that this felt like a Ryan Coogler movie until it got to the third act, and then it stopped feeling like a Ryan Coogler movie. And that's not to say it's a bad movie. It's just I love Coogler so much that feeling like it stopped being one of his movies bummed me out a little bit. But this is like the significance of this movie can't be understated. This movie made more money in the United States than Infinity War did, which is one of the biggest movies of all time. Mm-hmm. So the cultural significance of this movie was so crazy. People were so excited, and I'm so happy to see people that excited about this movie because, first of all, I think Coogler's brilliant and he's a wonderful director, and I love just about everything he does. But this is an important moment, and I agree that T'Challa was not as interesting of a character as Killmonger was, but I also think I still think he has a pretty satisfying arc throughout the course.
I agree.
Of the
he still doesn't fall short. That's the thing. I just think everyone else is also exceptional, and they haven't really had that in a lot of these movies where so many of the characters are just exceptionally interesting and fun to watch and entertaining, and where they actually have real conflict and they're coming from real areas and they're not just all, boilerplate good guys. It was flawed. It's a superhero movie, so it's allowed to be a little dumb and have some stupid CGI rhinos. But,
sure.
But I was I'm so bored of just alien hordes. I don't even care that the ending was anticlimactic. I'm really glad there wasn't a crazy alien horde at the end of a Marvel movie. When was the last time that happened?
Yeah.
It's happened so many times. I was overall very happy with it. It is, still superhero. It's a little dumb here and there, but I think it, again, does so much of what we should be expecting and deserving from these Marvel superhero movies, which is the right amount of action and fun and quippiness at the right times and interesting, fun characters.
Yeah.
Strong women.
Hell yeah. Holy crap, hell yeah. They stole the show. I loved it.
They did.
Yeah. I mean, it's a perfect exemplar of the superhero movie genre, right? That's and it is also more than that too. So
exactly.
I think Scott, I think it's fair to say my feelings have cooled, but I think it was extraordinarily well done, obviously. So, yeah.
All right, Matt, it's your turn.
It's my turn again. I part of me wants to not talk about another superhero movie.
There's going to be more.
but that part of me is not as strong as the part of me that thought Infinity War was just an amazing movie, and so I want to talk about Infinity War for a little bit.
Yeah, go for it.
Because I've been in the last few days, for whatever reason, you get into a groove on YouTube where YouTube decides that you need to know more about something, and so YouTube has been teaching me about Infinity War. And this is just such a unique and special thing, in history. Maybe I'm being dramatic here, but you've got this film franchise. Usually we roll our eyes when we hear the word franchise because we're oh yeah, they're just trying to pump money out of this property, and it's basically intellectually corrupt. But this is a case where they set out years ago to build this coherent cinematic universe where they had everything to a greater or lesser degree planned out in advance, how it was all going to fit together, and made these amazing Hail Mary passes from movies that happened 10 years ago that culminated in this movie. So many characters, so many things going on, perfectly conveyed at a dramatic level, at a character level. It dared to go there with the ending. So many awesome moments that are really some of the best moments of any superhero film, as far as I'm concerned. I know I kind of know what I sound like here, but it really is a wonderful movie.
Yeah, I mean, I think probably the most surprising thing that happened this year was, to me, was learning how much you liked this movie, because I didn't expect this to be a movie that you were just gonna love, and I came back from it really liking it, and I was really hoping you were gonna like it, so I was really thrilled to hear you talk about it the first time we did, and it's great to talk about it again, because I mean I agree with you. I think that sometimes you have to judge things off of the degree of difficulty, and I think the degree of difficulty here was so high, and not only for them to achieve what they set out to do, but I mean, I know we joke about there's no more risk taking in the Marvel Cinematic Universe because they're so big and so powerful that they can't go wrong. But I still think ending this movie the way they did was a risk. And it's something that they felt like they could get away with doing if they did it right, and they got there. And it's such an unexpected thing to see in a theater. You never expect things to end that way in these type of movies, and the fact that it did, and I don't care if we're going to reverse it all in the next movie. I don't care. That's fine. The moment was still earned in the theater this year, and I loved it.
Yeah, they did a great job of actually hitting the lowest point. Like, it's, you know, it's 2 stories, so they have to hit the lowest point now in this movie.
Right.
But I feel like just for the overall story of this, but they did it for all of the Marvel movies. That was it. That is the lowest moment. We've had it, and they succeeded in it. And I was so thrilled they didn't play up like favorites, and they didn't like screw up anyone's screen time. Like, I really felt like it was going to be so easy for them to just go with like, you know, like the only one-liners, only, you know, like it's just throwing everyone in and like, don't you love this character because they do this one thing really well? No, like they had fantastic banter. Like, I was so happy with their banter. It was great. And it was so fantastic seeing all the combinations of things. Like, I didn't have any like I usually would complain about like the way the characters would be like split off or something like that in like mashups and that kind of thing. But like they did such a good job. Everyone got good screen time. The story worked. Everyone splitting up, and all the different combos of the characters was just so entertaining. Like they did good. I was so worried about this one because it's been years. Like, I mean, I've, you know, been on the bandwagon since before Marvel Studios, and so seeing that they were doing stuff that would one day lead up to like one big movie was just, you start getting pessimistic is what I'm saying. I wasn't let down.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what's amazing is this movie was probably harder to do than any of the other ones in terms of what they're trying to do, and simultaneously they avoided all of the classic problems of Marvel films and superhero films. They had the best villain of any Marvel film, as far as I'm concerned. Mm-hmm. They had like, I've watched this movie 3 or more times now, and like there aren't any slow parts. Like, this is an over 2-hour movie where you're riveted the whole time. How often does that happen?
Oh yeah, like it could have gone on longer, easy, and it wouldn't have felt any different. Like, it still it wouldn't have gotten boring at all. Like.
Yeah. And I mean, even the big CGI aliens fight at the end is like perfectly fine because there's just the right amount of that, right? They don't let that drag on and you know.
Like this is the movie that should have the big crazy alien fights.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Like in the team up movies, those should definitely be the ones where they're fighting the horror monsters.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, and the thing that I think is so spectacular about this is, I think. This movie could only work if it came on the back of 10 years of other movies, right? Like, the reason why Thanos is the best villain in the MCU, or why some people will make that argument, is because there have been like 13 movies before this one. So we can look at all the main characters. We can look at our protagonists in the movie, or, well, Thanos is the protagonist. We can look at the heroes in the movie and say, we're comfortable that people know these people. So we need to establish them. We need to establish their wants and their needs within this movie specifically. But we don't have to spend a lot of time on that stuff. So we're able to focus time on Thanos. We're able to explore this villain in a way that most movies just don't have time to do, especially team up big bunch of people coming together movies. And so this only could have worked the way it did on the backs of all those other movies. And that's what the goal of a cinematic universe is, right? Like, this is the end goal of doing something like this, and they did it.
Yeah, I mean, it's great.
I guess my last comment would be, just this last week I showed it to my parents, and they hadn't seen it, and they actually didn't know how it ended, and so they got to watch that completely unspoiled, which was kind of cool.
Wow. But I don't know how the cultural consciousness.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. Well, that's what's interesting is they're not Marvel people. I don't know how many Marvel films they've seen. Maybe 2 or 3 at most. I think they like the Guardians of the Galaxy already. They'd watch the Guardians of the Galaxy movies and maybe Iron Man or something. But they didn't even watch the previous Avengers movie. So they're not bought in on this. And I showed this to them, and they I as far as I can tell, they actually really liked it, and it worked for them because what every important character the movie introduces, it gives you a sense of them when it introduces them. Like Doctor Strange, it's yep, he's a wizard, he's arrogant, he sees it as his duty to protect the stone and by extension protect the world. And Iron Man is also arrogant, and his thing is his suit. and he thinks he's going to protect the world, and they have conflict because of this. Like you get that within the movie. You don't need to have watched their own private spin-off movies to understand that. So I think what's true. Like fantastic is like, yeah, absolutely. It works exceptionally well on us because we've seen all of the extended universe movies. But I was kind of actually surprised and amazed that it also seemed to work for my parents who were not similarly bought in. So
yeah, that's really great. I was very, very happy that Thanos wasn't just a big bad and that was it. And like he had nothing to him. Like I've seen people like argue like, is Thanos all that bad? Look at his goals. Yeah. And it's like, well, yeah, that's why he's a good villain.
Right.
But the answer to that question is absolutely yes. He's a bad guy.
Yeah.
People will disagree though. Like
he is trying to be helpful. Right?
No, he's not. He's a psychopath.
You know, I was thinking this week, like, what if you contextualize his goal in terms of like reducing traffic specifically? Suddenly, everyone would be like, well, maybe he has a point.
Not if to reduce traffic means killing half of all the people on the road.
Ask yourself that question next time you're in traffic, Scott.
This is where I decided. It's all living things. So that means all the dogs and the kitties and the weird funky aliens that exist. Like he took out all those too. They weren't the problem. So I got beef.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you didn't have to decide. You didn't have to do it. It's just someone did it for you. So just be thankful.
Oh, I like the puppies and the dogs.
Horrified. I am horrified.
That makes it worse.
Guys, help me.
I'm so happy.
So when you wake up tomorrow and only one of the dogs is alive, just be thankful. Only one mouth to feed.
Oh my God. All right, so let's move on from Avengers Infinity War and my wife scaring me to death.
Yay.
And let's talk about my next movie. I wanted to talk about Roma. And here's the thing, like, when I put together my movies for these lists, like, I am conscious of the fact that over the past 2 weeks, a lot of people, especially myself, have been reading critic top 10 lists, because that's the thing every critic does at the end of the year now. They make their top 10 lists. And I've seen Roma at the top of so many lists. And like, I kind of in the back of my head, it makes me not want to pick these things because like I know everyone else is talking about them too, and I want to be interesting and different, but I can't not talk about this movie because I loved this movie so much. So this is Alfonso Cuarón's, he wrote and directed this movie. It is a kind of a love letter to, he grew up in Mexico and lived in Mexico City and had a live-in nanny. And this movie's kind of a very personal love letter to her. It is playing on Netflix. You can see it now. And I think I'm the only one here that's seen it, I think.
I was on the couch playing on my phone, so I kind of saw it.
You were in the room.
I'm going to have to see it. I have not.
Yeah.
Yeah, me neither.
And the thing about this, like, I've seen a lot of complaints by some people of this movie that it's kind of cold and removed. And also some people that said it's kind of, like, disrespectful for, like it's kind of weird for, like, a rich dude to be making this movie about his nanny, and like how maybe the story of the nanny should be told from someone who like knows what it's like to actually live that life. And I get that. I get the complaints about that. But to me, this is a movie about a man trying to understand this really complex relationship, because you have this woman who raised you, basically. She was almost exactly a mother to you. But she's also an employee. And I think when you watch the movie, a lot of what the movie is doing is dealing with the complexity of that dynamic of the fact that the family loves her, she's part of the family, except when the mom's in a pissy mood and she orders you to do something, you have to go do it. And when she says you're like go clean all the dog shit off the street, like she has to do that. Like, so it's this back and forth. Like, there's a moment where everyone's sitting around the couch watching TV and she's standing there too, and the mom looks over and sees her and tells her to get back to work. And like, it's this complicated like back and forth between, yes, being a member of the family, like being part of them. She lives with them, she's with them every day, but always having that divide. And I think he's exploring like what that means. And I don't think he has like a definitive answer on like, what is that relationship, and how you contextualize that in your life. And I think that's what he's trying to do. I mean, he definitely loves this woman. You can definitely tell, like he treats her as kind of saintly in her ability to raise and help and protect the kids. But there's also that other side of it that I think that the movie, explores pretty well. And I love it. And I can't talk about this movie without talking about the cinematography, which is some of the most beautiful black and white filmmaking I've ever seen. There's so many long shots. Like if you've seen Children of Men, Alfonso Cuarón loves his long shots, and they're sprinkled all throughout here too. I can't. This movie affected me on so many levels, and it kind of starts off slow. So for you guys that haven't seen it yet, if you're you're 20 minutes in, you're not really getting into it. I think that's exactly what happened to Elyse and why she pulled out her phone.
It did not grab me.
You will just suddenly find yourself like enthralled by this movie without realizing it. Like you're like, I don't know. I don't see what the big thing is about. And then an hour later, I was like, holy shit. It's such a good movie. I recommend it so much.
I'm such a big fan of his, and just with what you're describing and the way I imagine he would make this kind of movie, it makes me want to see it.
Yeah. And there's this really wonderful shot where the no good shitty father pulls his car into their parking drive area, and the car's big and it doesn't fit. And so the dad's struggling to park the car and keeps bumping into the side of the tunnel that it's going through. And it's this wonderful metaphor about how this dude just doesn't fit in the family at all. I love it so much. I love this kind of filmmaking.
He's such a good filmmaker.
He is. It's so, God, watch this movie. I wish everyone, I am so upset with myself that I didn't go see this in the theater, because I think I would have enjoyed it so much in the theater. But I don't want to be one of those people that says, no, you have to see this in the theater or you're not seeing the movie. It's on Netflix. Watch it on Netflix. Watch it on your phone if you want to. Just watch the movie. Just do it.
I also wonder, though, if we had gone and seen it in the theater, if I would have liked it more, though.
You would have.
Yeah, I mean, because that's the thing, though, is not only would it be more beautiful to see it on a larger screen, but you being forced to pay attention and get past the 20 minutes that it was not connected at all to me.
Yeah, I think so. And you might still feel cold about it. I mean, I've listened to plenty of critics say that this movie just left them cold. And I think it's because Cuarón's observing this thing from a very removed perspective, where he's puzzling out the relationship, and that is a little less personal. But the woman who plays Cleo, which is the name of the nanny, is Yalitza Aparicio. Sorry. She is a novice actress. This is her first film, and she is fantastic. For the fact that she's never performed before on camera is crazy, because she's so good. See this movie. And the only reason I brought up that don't feel like if you don't see it in a theater, you're not seeing it, is because this movie's not playing everywhere, and a lot of people just don't have access to a theater. And saying to someone, no, you must drive 100 miles or you're not really seeing this, I don't think that's fair. Watch it on Netflix. Thank God for Netflix, because there's no way a studio would have ever released this in theaters without Netflix. It's just not the type of movie that would have gotten made without a big streaming giant like this willing to throw money at it. So it's great.
Cool.
So that is Roma. Sorry, I talked too long, and this is just only one that I could talk about, but I just felt the need to. So let's go back to some other stuff. Elyse.
Yes.
Talk to me about something.
Well, I have a question before I pick what I'm going to do off of my list of things that I had done.
Okay.
So do I have a set number of rounds that I'm going to be doing? So should I be strategic with it and pick something that I know might be things other people have seen, and so it would be killing two birds with one stone? Or can I just pick anything random?
I think we've been going for about an hour.
Yeah.
So I think we probably got about another half hour of this show left.
Okay.
So we're probably going to be able to go around the circle once, maybe twice more. So be a little strategic.
I'll be a little strategic.
Yeah.
So in my slightly strategic, then I'm going to pick A Quiet Place. Because I know that other people have seen it.
Yeah.
That is true.
Yes. So there we go.
Talk about A Quiet Place.
So A Quiet Place is one of those aliens have come and are like killing all of the humans. And so they are detected through, or they detect other people through sound. Mm-hmm. So the family's theory is that if they are completely silent, then they cannot be heard and cannot be therefore killed. And so the family spends their entire life trying to be as quiet as possible until, oh no, they are heard. And then lots of horrible things happen. Oh no. So it's A Quiet Place.
So it's directed by John Krasinski.
John Krasinski, starring him and his real life wife, Emily Blunt. And they're just adorable. Well, I guess I can't really say adorable on screen because, you know, bad things happen. But
there are adorable parts.
I think I remember crying in this movie.
Oh, wow.
I know. And for me to have cried, I had to have gone through some emotions.
I know which part you cried about.
Yeah.
I
That's tough for me.
Yeah, so why'd you like this so much?
I think it was just different. And now it's not very different because all of them are like, oh no, sight, sound.
You talking about Bird Box?
Yeah. But before that, it was like, oh no, something different. Yeah. And so I just thought it was interesting, kind of the perspective that they took with it.
Yeah. So, Sesh, you've seen this movie too.
I have. I was very much looking forward to it because I'm a big fan of his, and I'm always really interested when like a actor is going into directing, and for this to be the kind of movie that he chose to direct and write and make, I was really, really excited because this is another movie that's like very much up my alley. It's a monster movie. It's a survival monster movie. I love those. Like I love my creature features, and this was a really good one for that. Like it also like wasn't super, super perfect. Like, yeah, I played Last of Us. I'm like, why don't you throw things in the direction that you're not going? Like just throw something like that. So I had a lot of moments like that. But really, like, besides that being like my only real complaint about it, like the characters weren't stupid. The plan was good. It was not like Bird Box. It was really well shot. The acting was really great. The girl in it was like just so frustrated and just conveyed so much. She was really fantastic in it. And I like the creatures in it. And I think that's so important in a movie like this to have good, interesting creatures and to have like a system to the creatures. Like they do this thing. Yeah. This is their behavior. Like this is why like Alien was so good. Like Tremors were so good. Like they have like they have behaviors and they have like things that they do, things that work and don't work. And I thought I was very satisfied with that. And like those monsters being what they were. I love like the family's plans and like just them building that little like baby coffin box was just like, oh yeah, that gives me anxiety. You're going to have to do that. That's what you have to do. Oh boy. Like it had some very, very good moments in it. I think it is unique. Like I think it's gonna be something that people remember. Like it's not just gonna, disappear. Like it does stand out in a lot of different ways, and I think enough ways to, be one of those things that's like still worth seeing down the road, even if we keep on getting more sensory apocalyptic horror movies.
Mm-hmm. I think what was good too with it though too is the previews, the trailers that came out with it. Like it sets you up for knowing how intense it was. And so you were really paying attention to the sound the entire time. And they really used sound well. Mm-hmm. And so I think sound is one of those things too, when you're having suspense, when it's used correctly and in the right moments, it just like, it makes you so much more anxious. Yeah. And so I really liked.
Well, not just knowing when to use sound, but knowing when not to use sound.
How to, and then in conjunction with like really good visuals, like just they ramp up the anxiety. Yeah. Like I remember seeing the early trailers for this, and like I kind of had a hint. I was like, is this a monster movie? Is John Krasinski's first movie going to be a monster movie? Like I was all excited because it's like A Quiet Place, and you just see a family that looks like they're dealing with some drama, and it has that kind of title and it's his first movie. So you just kind of suspect it's going to be like a little character piece with like some weird, a dark backstory or something like that. And I got my monster movie.
Yeah. This movie kind of made me hate the state of online film criticism a little bit though, because like a lot of the response to this movie was like, no, this movie's stupid because why did they do this? Why did they get pregnant? Why would you do that when you like And it's like, because they're people and they wanted to bang. Like, stuff happens. Like, I think that's what I like this movie a lot, and I agree with everything you guys have said. And it just really frustrated me when people like seemed to really want to pick this movie apart and show why it was bad writing because characters made bad decisions. And I'm like, that's not bad writing. That's people. That happens.
Yeah, sometimes you don't quite know what was going to happen. Like, they don't really say how long it's been like that kind of world. Like, she could have, been pregnant when it started.
Yeah.
So.
Or,
I gave it
just accidents happen.
That too.
Like, it just it's just like, it's just, they're dumb arguments.
Yeah.
Like I've seen plenty of videos, like triumphantly trying to, like, dissect this movie in a way that shows how none of it makes any sense and it's actually really stupid and bad writing. And I just don't have time for that kind of stuff. It's just enjoy the movie.
They're just jealous of Jim because everyone loves Jim.
Yeah. You're right.
If I recall, Emily Blunt was asked to read the script by John Krasinski, and then after she read it, she demanded to play the character.
Yeah, he got sent a script, and he was trying to decide if this is the movie he wanted to do. So he had her read it to like get her opinion. Like, should I do this movie? And she read it and said, yes, not only should you do this movie, but I want to star in it. You have to cast me.
That's awesome.
Makes me love it even more.
Yeah.
All right, Sesh, give me another movie.
It's so hard to pick. Because I want to go superhero, but I want to go comedy, but I want to go horror. And then there's like the coming of age story. Okay. I mean, you're looking at the list here too. Like I have them kind of in the order of like what I would want to talk about. So it's hard to pick. And I would like to talk about stuff probably that other people have seen as well. Is this going to be my last time? I want to throw in like one maybe people haven't seen.
Let's say you'll get one more. You'll get one more after this. We'll go around one more time after this one.
What other superhero ones do we have out here? I did really absolutely love like Deadpool 2, but I don't have a whole ton to say about it that I didn't really say about the other superhero movies with conflict and nuance and a drive to be good.
I loved Deadpool 2. I loved it. I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was better than the first one. I thought it was really emotional too. I got really
okay. I want to talk about it too. Then okay, it's gonna be Deadpool 2. I'm gonna screw it. I am going 3 superhero movies. I did love it. I did enjoy it more than the first one. I felt like it was a much stronger script. I felt like they did a lot more with it and the characters, and it wasn't just trying to be funny with like a little bit of like the motivation in the first one sucks. Like this one, just every piece in it like felt right. Like it, like I did really like that there is like a big question, like a big moral dilemma with this like annoying bratty kid that turns into a murderer, and like what you do with him and how to handle him, and like for a fact what his like future is, right? Maybe.
Yeah.
And I love that it's like Deadpool too, because he's such an anti-hero, not even a hero, but like this movie is where he becomes one, and he really does try to be good, and it's a funny struggle, but it's also a good struggle. Like for a superhero to have that, it's with great power. I'm jumbling it. Oh my god, all the Spider-Man talk and I'm jumbling it. With great power comes great responsibility, and he has that, and that's in there. And I love to see that quote be at least a thread in all Marvel movies, just because it has so much oomph to it, and it's in this. And then everyone has like a really good motivation in this. There is like a good driving force for everyone. There is an argument that you can make for everyone, and it is extremely on the nose and meta and hilarious all at the same time, while being like kind of there's sweet elements in it, while it's like comically overly violent at the same time. Like it's all over the place. And I really did enjoy that so much. I felt like I'm like proud of Ryan Reynolds. Like I just feel proud of him.
I have a question for you, though. So one of the big complaints about this movie was about the quote-unquote fridging of the love interest character to motivate our hero. And a lot of people couldn't get over that fact. I guess you were able to work past that?
I mean, with the ending, and I feel like it was just... I feel like for him, like, it honestly was like a better motivation, like a better in her memory, because it wasn't about like him going back in time and saving her and doing all that. It was more about like him just honoring her memory and being a better person, being the person she always wanted him to be, and he was like kind of working towards, but they didn't get to, rather than him just like in the first movie being worried that he's ugly. Like that bothered me way more in the first one than any girlfriend related motivations in this one.
Okay. Here's the thing I'll say about fridging, and then I'm not going to say anything else. I understand why people have a problem with it as a motivational trope in storytelling. But the reason it's used so often is because it's a really good motivational trope in storytelling.
Yes.
It works. It works very well. It works to motivate your characters. And I understand why people don't like that. I get it. I get why it feels frustrated, especially in like the male to female character dynamic where we're constantly pushing the female character or killing the female character to motivate our guy. I get why people have a problem with it, but it does work. Like it does. It is effective. And in a movie that is like half a joke, using a shortcut to motivation, I think makes sense in the writing.
Yeah. And it does work too with, it's not just like, he's guilty about it too. Like there is like a guilt element to it. There is
right.
Yeah, they use it well. It is tropey, but they use it well. And I'm sure I forget any specific comments, but I do feel like there were even comments on it. Like it's just so self-aware, and it does humor. Like it's I'm still like laughing over just the entire ending of it. Like it's just so perfect. I made it to the big leagues. Like it's genius. Like it's so good. And like it's fine if like not every single story element is the most genius thing, because they really absolutely focus on the humor of it, like more than anything else. But just all these other elements weren't totally neglected, I felt like.
Sure. Matt, did you see Deadpool 2? I can't remember.
No, but the way you guys are talking about it, I want to like go watch it immediately. So
you should.
Yeah, I mean, it's one that I wanted to see. That several of the ones that I haven't seen that you guys have been talking about are ones that I've wanted to see. But this is one where I'm like, yeah, maybe this weekend, like just get that out of the way, because it
a wise
maybe
decision.
Not with the kids.
Yeah,
probably not with.
Oh
the
wait,
kids.
there's the Christmas special though. There's a PG-13 one.
We were supposed to go see that.
I really wanted to try to go see that just out of curiosity, but we had too many other movies to see, and I just couldn't fit it in. Yeah. Elyse, you haven't talked about it at all. Did you like it?
It was funny. I liked it.
Perfect.
I think I agree. Ryan Reynolds is Deadpool.
Yeah.
Like, I imagine his everyday life being almost exactly like that character.
His Twitter and his Instagram seems like it is. So.
I know. And so that's why every time I watch these movies, I love them because I just get to watch Ryan Reynolds.
And that's why Detective Pikachu is going to be the hit of 2019.
So good.
It probably will be. Yeah.
All right, Matt, it's your turn again. What movie do you want to talk about?
Yeah, I think I've probably churned through most of what I have to say about the movies that I've seen. So I guess the last one that I would want to talk about would be Mission Impossible. And even that, I don't have much. I don't have a whole lot to say. Just like a good movie, good action movie. Tom Cruise like delivers the Tom Cruise juice that you come to see. It's got.
That needs to go on the freaking box.
Yep.
Tom Cruise delivers the Tom Cruise juice you go to see.
Yeah, Matt Freeman. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, like it's just that all the action set pieces are great. It's well paced. Characters are good. You care what's happening in the movie. I actually kind of like I wouldn't say that I was actually very bought into like the character of Ethan Hunt and the arc of Ethan Hunt across the Mission Impossible films because they've been fairly incoherent actually. But this is one where I cared about him probably more than I've cared about him since the first movie actually. So yeah, good job there.
Yeah. I'm a little colder on this movie than most people. I saw it on a lot of best of the year lists, and I was a little like, no, I mean, there's just so many good movies this year. I was surprised that some of the critics that are usually like less interested in action films really like fell in love with the action of this movie. I liked it a lot. I thought it was good. I like the Mission Impossible series generally. I think the first one is always going to be my favorite. But yeah, it was a good movie. Yeah. I don't have much else to say about it.
I mean, he broke his ankle for this.
Yeah, that's true.
So it has to be on the list.
Henry
Cavill reloads his arms.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
right.
I forgot about him.
Yeah, it's not even so much that it's on my like best of list. It's just like I only really saw 11 new movies this year, and a lot of them I didn't care for, and the rest of them we already talked about. So this is kind of it.
Yeah. And hey, the 11 is a good number for you.
Yeah.
I remember last year it was only like 4.
Yeah.
So
that's almost one a month.
Yeah.
You're trending upward.
I'm proud.
All right. The movie I wanted to talk about, and I'll be quick here too, so we can go around one more time. I want to talk about Minding the Gap, which is my favorite documentary of the year. This is a Hulu original documentary. It is a movie about skaters. This guy, I'm trying to remember his name. I should have pulled this up before I started talking. But this guy used to, Bing Liu is the director's name, and he was a skater in high school, and he would always bring around a camera, so he kind of goes back to like explore skater culture when he's a little bit older and meets up with someone who he's really good friends with and another kid that he meets through the process. And it starts off a movie just kind of exploring like why people skate, but then skateboard. Why don't you skateboard? I should say that. Not like inline skating. It starts off as a movie like exploring that type of culture and why people do it, but it slowly kind of unfolds into this movie about like toxic masculinity and abuse that all these characters, like every character in this movie, I say character, every human in this movie went through some terrible abuse by either step parents or parents, and it shaped the people they become. And a lot of them use skateboarding as a way to deal with their anger and frustration and confusion with that kind of thing. And it like the movie kind of just like blossoms into this wonderful discussion of this, and you almost don't even realize it's happening. And I think Bing Liu he's a fantastic director that uses like so many scenes of these guys like skateboarding down the streets and like being frustrated at unable to land tricks, and he ties these scenes in with the frustration that they're dealing with as people that have gone through this terrible stuff. And it's just this wonderful, wonderful documentary that I was not expecting at all. Like I just heard through the grapevine that, hey, there's this new documentary on Hulu and it's about skateboarding, but don't let that turn you off because it's not really about skateboarding. That's just a window into something. And so it's like, all right, I'll give it a try. And it's only 90 minutes and it's fantastic. Like I really recommend everyone that has a Hulu subscription give this thing a shot, because I think this is going to be in competition with the Mr. Rogers film for best documentary at the Oscars. I'm pretty sure. It's so good.
I was really kind of mad at you.
Why?
Because you watched it when I was asleep, and then you like raved about it, and you made it sound really good, and then you're like, "Sorry, I watched it when you were asleep."
You chose to sleep.
No,
it's your fault.
No. So now I'm gonna have to watch it.
Okay.
You're gonna have to see it again.
I will watch it again.
Okay.
I will. All right, let's go around one more time.
Okay.
If anyone still has anything. If you don't have anything, you can just say pass. But Elyse, one more time. What you got?
I'm taking the one that I was going to put on my list, but is on yours because I'd rather talk about that.
Okay.
8th grade.
Okay.
I loved 8th grade. And I think I loved 8th grade mostly because I spend every day, well, not every day, but most days in a school. Only I spend it from the different perspective. But it was, I'm not going to say 100% spot on, but it was so good to actually see a depiction of, you know, what middle school was like and about how kids actually relate to each other and how they deal with things in a very realistic and just sensitive way. And then getting to watch it and then having the Q&A after, I think, because we saw
I forgot
we
Bo
saw
was
it.
there,
Bo,
yeah.
he came and he had, what was it, like 30-minute Q&A hour, something like that. And it was just, you could then, you know, see his like passion behind it and how much it meant to him that everyone else understood what he was trying to do, that it just made me like the movie even more. And so, I don't know. It's one of those things that puts to life.
Yeah. Not
everything that I go through on a daily basis, but it puts to life a lot of what I go through. And so I appreciate it.
Yeah, I love this movie, and if I had been ranking my lists, this would have been near the top. I've been a fan of Bo Burnham, you know, since he was just making silly YouTube songs, and his evolution in his career have continued to amaze me. His comedy specials that I think are all on Netflix are some of the best comedy specials I've ever watched. And seeing him make this leap and tell this story that is in line with the type of stuff he talked about in his comedy specials, but is doing so much more. I totally agree with you. Like, I was never an 8th grade girl, and yet I found something just so fundamentally true about the human experience in this movie, that even though like this 8th grade girl is going through stuff that I never had to go through because social media didn't exist when I was that age. None of this kind of interconnectedness that we have now existed, but there's also something timeless to the type of struggles that you go through as a kid moving into this phase of your life. And you're right that he captures it so perfectly. And I mean, when I first heard that Bo Burnham was writing a movie about the experience of an 8th grade girl, I was like, there's no way you can do that well. Like, there's no way. But of course he does. And it's on the back of a wonderful performance by Elsie Fisher, who I think is going to be a superstar. I think she's so good in this movie, and she seems so like genuine, and like I've followed her on Twitter after I watched this movie, so I've been like seeing her interactions via social media, and she seems great. And I hope this is the start to a great career for her and a great directing career for Bo. And I completely agree with you on the Q&A. Like he is so passionate and driven in his work, and he was exhausted in that Q&A.
Yeah,
you could tell he was exhausted, but he still talked for 30 minutes about this movie because he loved the experience of making it so much.
And it makes me excited to see what he's going to do after, because if he puts that much into the story and an experience that, while he went through middle school, it wasn't as an 8th grade girl that I am aware of, you know,
pretty sure
that it makes me excited to see what direction he's going to try and go next.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
That's 8th
It was a
grade.
really good one.
It was.
Sounds so good.
See that movie. Everybody see it.
I'm going to see it.
It's on Hulu or Prime. It's somewhere streaming, isn't it?
I believe it's on
thought that it
Prime.
was. I think it comes out sometime this month for free on one of them. I'm not for sure.
Yeah. We own it.
We do.
I bought that right away.
Of course you did.
All right, Sesh, what's your last movie?
Okay, since I did get to talk about a horror movie, and since you did just talk about a nice, sweet movie with younger people in it that's relatable, even though it's not who you were growing up, I'm going to not talk about Love, Simon, and I'm actually going to talk about the movie Tag. Mostly because of where I am now. I'm currently still in my Arizona vacation, seeing all my old friends from the past, which is a element in the movie. And we're all a little bit older too. I'm sure we've all, moved away from our friends, and we go back and we visit, and it's nice to catch up. And this movie actually had a lot of heart to it, and it still sticks with me, but it was insanely funny. And I'm going to say it's still a superhero movie because Hawkeye is in it. It is totally Hawkeye. There is no question. I was making jokes that it was him, like watching the trailers, and then you see the movie, it is just his civilian life, and these are his normal people buddies. I swear. It's shot so funny, and it's like my kind of humor, my favorite kind of humor is like the over the top, powerful, they were too cool, they were just that good kind of stuff. And that's him, like this entire movie. It's just super enjoyable, but it's honestly just about like friendship and holding friendships despite like life changing and it pulling you apart. And that's, you know, for me, that's something I'm definitely thinking about right now at the end of the holidays after I've seen all my old friends. And it's still a movie that stuck with me. Like I saw it actually last time I visited Arizona, like in the and with a bunch of my old buddies that I have had for years, and now I only see them every once in a while. And so this movie connected with me. I thought it was completely like again, like not a perfect movie. There's definitely some things I would like to see different, like some non brick wall female characters would have been nice, but the friendship that they had and the guys had in this was it was really touching. It was very relatable, and it was something that I think a lot of us should hope to be able to have as we get older and our lives change and we get to see each other less and less and less.
I like that. This is the first movie that we've talked about tonight that I haven't seen, so I can't say anything about it.
Highly recommend it.
But so these people play a game of tag to keep in touch with their old friends. I just start a bunch of podcasts with mine.
Yeah. Yep. Yours is definitely easier and less dangerous, I will say.
That's true.
But yeah, it's the same idea. Like it's not about like growing apart, even if you know you their lives start pushing you apart, and which I think something that's very relatable for people, especially in like kind of our age bracket.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and it was super funny too. Like, I mean, I'd compare it. The last time I felt like this in a movie was probably like Wedding Crashers. Like, I know it's like the, you know, the dumb guy humor kind of movie, but it's still funny. And this one had so much heart to it, and it's just about friendship and people staying together and the things they do for love and their different ways to love each other, like just as friends. It's solid. It is. It has a lot of really great moments to it. Like Hawkeye just kicks so much ass.
Yeah, I've heard good things about this one.
Yeah, he was in that more than Infinity War.
Yep. This is what he was doing.
Cool. We'll have to rent that, Elyse. I think it's available to rent now, so we'll do that. So I can see all the movies we talked about.
Of course.
And Matt, you don't have anything else, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have anything to say about the others. They were films.
You saw Venom.
Yeah, I finally saw Venom.
The end.
Yeah. Ready Player One was a movie directed by Steven Spielberg. Cloverfield Paradox.
Glad you didn't bring it.
Was a Netflix movie that was on Netflix. Solo was in the Star Wars franchise. There, I talked about all of the movies. You know, I'm actually really disappointed that didn't I Love Dogs come out? Sorry, Isle of Dogs come out in 2018.
It did. I thought about it.
Yeah, I like I'm like embarrassed because my parents were like, you're gonna love this movie, and they bought it for me. I'm like, yeah, I know I'm gonna love it. It's Wes Anderson. And I still haven't watched it, and I have it on DVD because my parents bought it for me because they wanted me to watch it. So pretend I talked about I Love Dogs.
It's very cute. It's one of my favorite movies of his.
I didn't like it.
Scott didn't like it.
I need to watch.
He still has not bought me the Steelbook.
I need to watch it again because I think maybe I was just in the wrong set of like I fucking love Wes Anderson. Yeah. Everyone here knows I love Wes Anderson, and so I was so shocked that I didn't care for it as much. So I really want to approach it again and see if I like it better on the second time, because I'm not ready to give up on a Wes Anderson movie yet, because
that's good.
I'm a 30-something white man. So this is for me.
His quirkiness was
he speaks to my pathos.
Yeah. His quirkiness really comes through fantastic with the dogs and stop motion. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I love Fantastic Mr. Fox. That's why I was so surprised. Like I love stop motion. I love Wes Anderson. Like this, I don't understand. I need to go watch it again. We got it. I'm just gonna buy it just so I can watch it again.
All right.
Okay.
All right. I'm gonna finish my final movie of the year on clearly the best movie of the year, which is a Transformers movie called Bumblebee. No, this is not the best movie of the year, but this is a good movie, and that's shocking.
Yeah.
You were very surprised.
Look, like I love the Transformers movies because I think they're these weird kind of like windows into the psychological state of Michael Bay's brain. And I love them from that perspective, but I would never argue that any of the Transformers movies are actually good. But this movie is actually good. It's directed by a woman named Christina Hodson, and it's a pretty solid script. It's directed by Travis Knight, who is he works for, I think he was the president of Laika, which is the stop motion studio that did Coraline, and he actually directed Kubo and the Two Strings, which was one of my favorite movies ever. I loved that movie so much. And he transitioned to live action pretty well. I mean, this is like, it's not the most original movie you're ever going to see. Like, this is very much like a gender flipped, like boy and their dog story. But it's a car. But it's like the movie takes the time for you to understand the character of Charlie, who's the main character played by Haley Steinfeld. It explores Bumblebee as a character. Like, it really explores him as a character. It's got a bunch of nerdy Transformers references that people that really like Transformers will enjoy. It's just a very solid movie. Like, the action is actually filmed really good and not in a crazy Michael Bay confusing way. I was just so surprised at how well done this movie was. It's great, and I continue to love Haley Steinfeld and everything she does. John Cena's in it too. He's great. I can't get over this whole
John Cena's in it.
Yeah.
Oh.
I can't get over this whole you not liking Haley Steinfeld.
Yeah, I don't like Haley Steinfeld.
It's absurd.
It's okay. Her and Meryl can go make movies together, and I will never go see them.
It'd be a great freaking movie.
No.
Yeah. So that's Bumblebee. It's out now, and no one's seeing it. So Michael Bay makes a Transformers movie, and it makes hundreds of millions of dollars, and then people actually spend time to make a good one. And
that's how it goes.
And that's, I think they might possibly be, and it bums me out because it's not doing very well, but they might possibly be using this movie as a way to like reboot the Transformers series, because I think when they originally wrote this movie, it was going to be a prequel, and they make changes in this that make it so that's not possible anymore. So I don't know what's going on with the Transformers universe.
Well, that's good.
But this is a good movie in it.
I hope we can retcon the other ones out of existence. I mean, I like them the same way you do, but also they don't need to exist.
They're bad.
Yeah.
They're bad. Although this movie does continue on the tradition of Optimus Prime ripping robots' heads off.
Oh, cool.
You'll be happy to know that exists in this movie.
Attacking faces specifically. Yeah. Good.
All right, so I think that's it, guys. We talked about a lot of movies in this past hour and a half, and I think we're good. This episode's running long, so I think we're going to hold off on the whole resolutions. I think we can maybe attach that to another episode, Matt.
Yeah.
And just wrap this thing up here because it's gotten a little long. But I'm very happy with all your picks, guys. There's a lot of good movies this year, and I think we only covered a small amount of them.
Yeah.
So I think we should compile the list and send it to Michael.
And then make him watch all of
them.
them.
Yes, to watch all of them.
I was really hoping he would be here because I was all ready with like IndieWire.com does like they poll like 250 film critics for their top movies, and they compile a list of like the top 10 based on a critics poll. So I'd be like, okay, Michael, here are people that are professional critics. This is their job, and they say these 10 movies are really good. How many of them have you seen? Oh, 0? Well, then I guess you don't know what you're talking about. Case closed. but then he didn't come, so I just said that to no one.
Yeah.
And
To him.
It's to him. He just doesn't get to argue back.
I don't know if he's gonna be listening to this, but all right, guys, that's all we had for you this week. If you have any opinions on any of these movies you talked about, or just want to let us know what your favorite movies of 2018 were, you can reach out to us via email at doofmedia@gmail.com or over on our Twitter account at doofmedia.
Yeah, and if you're not already subscribed to this podcast, we encourage you to do so and ensure you never miss an episode. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, Google Play, and pretty much anywhere else podcasts can be found.
You can find this and all the other shows we do over at doofmedia.com. Including our book club, which is tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Yep.
Yeah, I got to do a lot of prep work for that. We're going to be talking about The Name of the Wind, the Patrick Rothfuss book, tomorrow on our book club. So if you're listening to this Friday morning, subscribe to us on YouTube and hang out with us as we talk about that book tomorrow night at 9:30 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Yeah, it's a participatory discussion. So head over there. And please consider rating and review us on Apple Podcasts. Every review helps us get more exposure and introduces new people to the content that we make here.
All right, guys, we will see you all next week with another exciting episode. I think we're still kind of trying to nail down what the topic is. I think we're going to dip back into our patron-produced content episodes and find something there. But it's going to be a good one. Elyse?
Yeah?
Thanks for coming on the show.
Oh, of course. Anytime. You know where to find me.
Yeah. Thanks for taking the Michael spot.
Yeah.
Sesh, thanks for coming back. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always so much fun, and I could just talk for hours with you guys, so it's great.
Yep. Yeah, it's always a great time. All right, we will see you all next week. Don't give me that look, Elyse. Don't give me that judgmental look.
My name is Doof, and you'll do what I say. My name is Doof, and you'll do what I say.